Hello, and welcome to the Diversity Committee's first face-to-face. My name is Sha Williams-Hinnant, and I'm with First Choice Better Homes and Land. And this is my co-host, Chip Taylor, and he is with Long and Foster. All of us here are local realtors with FAAR.
Today's discussion is designed to bring greater awareness about the inclusivity and the diversity of the membership of FAAR. We brought together a great group of people that are members of the association that are Hispanic, gay, Black, and Asian to bring their voices, their perspectives to a conversation today about their experiences as a realtor and experiences in life. So it'll just be a very honest, raw, open conversation.
So let's start by introducing everyone who's going to be with us today. Here to my left is Jimmy Shing, and he's with Hometown Realty. And then this is Pia Contreras-Sanchez, and she is with Prime Realty. Pia is also a current director on the FAAR board. So we're excited to be together today, and we're just excited for what we're going to do face to face.
There we go.
Thank you.
Well, Shay, I'd like to start today's discussion with a quote from an article that I thought would be kind of fun to get us started. It was written from an article called The Top Floor, written by Jasmine Sylvester. And it goes as follows. Diversity is where everyone is invited to the party. Equity means that everyone gets to contribute to the playlist. And inclusion means that everyone has the opportunity to dance. So in this statement, of course, the party is our workplace. So let me ask everyone the question. How's FAAR dancing right now? How are we doing with this stuff? Do you think that FAAR is diverse and inclusive of its membership? I open the floor.
Well, I think that FAAR wants to be diverse. Not sure if it is right now or that is the image that shows, but I think that we are on the right path because that's the willing. So when you have a will, then the action comes. And the question is the diversity.
Yeah, how are we dancing? Diversity is the buzzword of 2021, and it's not that it should be a buzzword, but it is. But what we're trying to do here at the association, like you said, is actually not just make it a buzzword. We're really trying to put things in action. So stuff we want to make sure you know how you feel about that.
Exactly, and I think that like I said, I mean that is the way that we wanted to be, and that's what we want to show. I was invited personally by Shay to be part of the board, and I think that sometimes that little effort, it makes a big difference in the people when we are trying to bring them over. Because it's not only that we say, okay, we are diverse or we want to be, if you don't invite the people, or the person to participate.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jimmy, go ahead.
Well, and I know that as far as leadership is concerned, our leadership really has been all white since 2008. I was the president of FAAR in 2008, and I think we've maybe had one other person on the board since then. But other than that, it's been pretty all white. However, it is not because we haven't tried. We have tried for years to get people of color on the board, and for one reason or another, either they were too busy or they felt they didn't have the experience. But that's why we are continuing to try to make our board and our association more diverse.
And let me follow up with that before I throw it to Jimmy, because really what this is all about right now is it's an honest conversation. If you ask probably a lot of members, and I want to throw this to you, Jimmy, perception is reality.
Yes.
They may not know all the efforts being made, but what they see is an all-white board.
Exactly.
And so that's one of the things we really want to embrace and change, and that's why the Diversity Committee was created.
Yes.
And Jimmy, outside looking as a member, what did you see?
Just the fact that we're having this conversation or this interview, I think it's a testament of the effort that FAAR is trying to achieve. And I also believe that, in terms of Fredericksburg, we are becoming more and more diverse town. And I feel like FAAR is a representation of our town going forward. So just the effort and the goals that we set ourselves, I see that there's so much potential, so much momentum going forward. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I would say Shay and I are both aware that probably over the last 3-4 years, there has been a very rigorous effort to diversify, especially the leadership in the committees and stuff like that. Yeah. And we found it challenging.
It has been very challenging. So I don't know if you all are aware of the things that FAAR has done to try to expand our diverse membership, but we have done leadership outreach on multiple occasions. This year, Chip was kind enough to actually be the person who gave us money so that we could start a Faces of FAAR scholarship. And we got an amazing young lady, Tamar Moffitt, who was the recipient of that scholarship, and she has just jumped on board with our committee running. And we're so excited about just those little things that we're doing, and we just know that if we keep this momentum up, that we will continue to do great things here at FAAR.
Yeah, and I think as a committee, we've kind of discussed amongst ourselves that we will never solve the world's problems.
No.
Exactly.
We can, again, chip away, add, make things a little better, improve things. I mean, a good example of that really recently is the last video we did. It was kind of a unique thing for us. It's not a big deal, and it's not a big deal within our membership per se. But in the video, we cast the first gay couple being the sellers of a home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was forward facing, and it was not mentioned that they were gay. They just were who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that would have existed 5 years ago, 10 years ago, for sure not.
Right.
But those are the kind of small incremental changes that we're looking at right now.
And I just think that probably wouldn't have been accepted 5 years ago. So my friend, when did you first know that you were gay?
It's so funny. This is probably the number one question that I get asked from people want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. When did I know? When did I know? There's a big complicated story beyond that, but I knew from the time I was in middle school that I was gay. But if I'm being honest, I've been out for only about 3 years now. I'll be happy to share my story with anybody out there. I don't mind it at all.
Mm.
But I'm still trying to figure out and be comfortable with who I am. It's even after a few years, I'm still trying to figure out and really get a feel for who I am. So I'm still growing, but I'll throw it back at you. So when did you first know you're Black?
Well, I'll have to tell you, I'm from Caroline County, and a lot of people to this day think that Caroline is a very racist place. Do you know that I really did not experience racism until I went to college? And that was very interesting. My friends growing up, we were white and Black. They all spent the night. We spent the night with each other at each other's homes. We did everything together in the summer. We hung out at basketball games. We did everything together. And it was actually a situation where my best friend, who was white, went to VCU with me, and she lived down at the VCU campus, and she invited me to lunch one day so I could meet her roommates. Well, her roommates saw us, but we didn't see them. And when they saw us at the table, they bypassed us and sat somewhere else. And she's wondering where they are, and she looks around, and they're sitting at another table, and she's like, "Y'all bypassed us." And they said, "Oh, we didn't know your best friend was a Black girl. We didn't know she was Black. We never been around Black
being
people."
a little older, how did that make you feel? I mean, when you heard those words,
Well, it startled me because that was not a thing where I grew up. It honestly wasn't. My mom did foster children. We had foster children live with us that were white. And so for me, it was interesting because I didn't know that side of the dilemma. But for my girlfriend, she literally quit college. She refused to stay in that room with those people anymore and called her mom and told her to come pick her up. And it's really sad because I didn't expect that from her. But it was just interesting that was the outcome.
Well, and we've talked about this before too. Being gay is a little different than other people because I can hide within my skin. If I want the world to know, they can know, and if I don't want them to know, they don't know. But you guys are different. You guys, there's no way you can do that. And there's always that. I would think there's that one time where you kind of felt like, okay, I'm a little different. Jimmy, do you remember what that meant to you or how it felt to you?
I first felt it when I first immigrated to this country when I was 3.5, and I went
Yeah.
to grade school, and I was the 1.5% Asian
Okay.
in my grade school, and it was like that for middle school and high school. It was only different in college because for some reason there's a bunch of Asian colleges.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was reminded the first day really, and was curious, and then I didn't get too much bullied, but I did get bullied sometimes for middle school going forward.
How did you know that did someone say something or did you just feel something? How did you know?
Oh, it was pretty blatant. It
Yeah.
was pretty
Okay.
blatant, outright, stereotypes, so forth and so forth. Making
Name
fun of my-
calling at that age?
making fun of my eyes, making fun of everything. But kids will be kids. I like this. Well, that's what my parents told me, and we always taught with. We're always raised that just keep your head straight, focus on your schoolwork, and bullies. The best way to be a bully is to be more successful, be smarter than them. That's the best way to beat them. You don't fight, you don't play your own game. So I just did that, and kept my head straight, and now it doesn't even bother me anymore.
It's interesting that you have to have that extra Teflon exterior though
Yeah.
than I would have to have necessarily.
Mhm.
And Pia, what about you?
Well, It really didn't hit me until I saw the report, the video that was made in Long Island. And I think that we have talked, Chip, about the word awareness, right? I was probably not aware that I was discriminated because I'm kind of moved in within my community. I'm a Hispanic real estate agent. There are not that many, so I'm always with my people.
Right.
And but the fact that somebody hasn't told me in my face something doesn't mean that it hadn't happened. So this topic for me is I get very emotional because it's like what you saw in the video, right? She was so nice to me. I didn't know that I was being discriminated.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That's
Yeah, so, and I think that I just, didn't want to believe it and didn't want to see it. I decided to put my kids in private school where probably that is more control. Always thinking, what is going to happen if they go to public school. Well, my daughter loves public school, but it depends on her personality. And when we talked about that video that we saw, not video, but the study, the journalist project, we talked about it in our home, and I asked my daughter for the first time, and I asked her, do you think that you were discriminated when you were in this in your school or when you were young? And she said, Mom, I was not invited to any birthday party when I was little.
Yeah.
So things that you don't put together, but then you look back and then
and it's funny because I can talk a big game, and sometimes I say as I'm getting older right now, I just don't care as much. I don't give a rip. But I think we all crave acceptance.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't want to be different. We don't want there to be any differences out there. And I think really one of the greatest things, honestly, that's come out of the last year is and Shay and we've had so many conversations. But we've had different conversations, and it's not just Shay, it's other people too. They've been really honest conversations. Sometimes it would be weird as a white person to use the word white or to ask questions. And what we can do now, especially within the diversity committees, we can really be very honest. Nothing's intentional to offend anybody. It's teach me if I'm saying something wrong. And on that level, I always like to have to say something. And I think to a degree, I think the white people are sometimes trying to dance around the right. You want to be PC. You don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
And like we talked about this before, you definitely prefer to be called black.
Yes. And that's my choice. I just think that it takes too many syllables to say African American. But the other part of that is, and it's not to diminish my heritage at all, but the reason I prefer to call black is because I don't call Chip a Caucasian American. I don't call her a Hispanic American. So, and most times you're called an Asian. Sometimes people, when they're trying to be politically correct, they say Asian American. So my thing is, it's not necessary. Just call me black. That's cool, and that's all I need. I do want to say something real quick about Pia, though. Pia works in her community, but Pia, I would tell you, if you did a lot of work outside your community, I feel you would have experienced a lot more racism. Because I would tell you, Chip and I have talked about this. I have 2 business cards, one with my picture and one without. The one without my picture gets in envelopes that I'm mailing out to people. The one with my picture is given to people when I'm meeting them face to face. I have had, over my 21 plus years as a real estate agent, I have had multiple encounters with people who have met me and realized that I was black, and all of a sudden their cousin, their brother, or somebody in their family is a real estate agent and they didn't know it. So it's out here. It has been so blatant, and one of these occasions literally just happened last April. And it was a young couple. It was like a couple in their 20s. And when the guy met me, or we did a Zoom call, his cousin just got their real estate license. Even though I'd been working with them for 4 months, trying to get him approved.
Well, and I know sometimes for me, I get a little confused too when you hear the term Latinx or something like that. Can you elaborate on what your preferences are? Kind of what would be offensive, what's not offensive?
Latinx, I think that it's a new thing
Yeah.
because I didn't know. I'll have to ask my daughter. But I always, I personally use Hispanic because I think but that is very formal. This question was asked to me a couple of weeks ago, and I start, paying more attention. My daughter always, this is a Latino family, or we are Latinos. So Latino, I think it's a cool name too.
Just makes good.
But I want you also to explain to people why you should not be called Mexican, because I know that I have so many people that call anybody who look Hispanic Mexican.
Exactly, and that it's it's very common, and I think that it's just people that are very not very.
It's like a knee-jerk
Ignorant.
reaction.
It's
to-
like exactly,
Yeah.
or not polite. They want it. They're trying to offend you, because they just trying to say, oh, everybody that is with your skin tone, Mexicans.
Yes.
Because Mexicans are not very welcome over here.
Right.
Well, and we said that before. We talked about the fact that you didn't just come across the border.
Exactly.
You're from the
Yeah.
States.
Yeah.
Yes.
And-
I was born in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Jersey girl. With this accent. So people, will ask me, and I know where they're going,
Yeah.
So how did you get here?
Yeah.
I mean, I took a plane, so, but what is behind that,
Yes.
how did you get here? So, and I know that, through my years, I have met a lot of people that, their parents came here, in some cases they didn't want to raise their kids here. They sent them back to their country, and then they only work because it's, that's what they came from, to do.
Yeah.
And terrible stories about, families that are,
separated.
separated.
Well, and on the flip side, so you came here when you were, what, 3?
3 years.
So from that degree, I've learned a little bit. I see we're always learning. I'm always learning.
Yeah.
And I think Oriental is a very old term now. I don't hear that, but Asian is the best way to describe. But then even in your world, it's a whole different variety of Asian.
Asian is the most convenient
Yeah.
because Asia as a continent encompasses over 40% of the world population. There's
Mhm.
over dozens of different countries. So, you want to be particular, you want to say East Asian, South Asian, that's in its own category. But Asian is like a more, I guess, broad term that they adapted back in 65 instead of calling people Oriental going forward as a more of a friendly way to go forward it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because before that, the word Oriental was just so much negative connotation and a lot of pain and misery behind that word. Because, for example, in American legislation, the only time where a particular ethnicity was banned by law in the United States from coming was the Chinese Exclusion Act.
Mhm.
And guess what? The entire bill is full of the word Oriental. So it's that kind of label that reminds people of that kind of pain and suffering.
Mhm.
So in 65, they decided to use the word Asian, and we have this since then. And I know more, I guess, socially aware people also say, oh, there's East Asian, South Asian, so forth. But for convenience sake, Asian is definitely the word to describe, I guess, people from Asian ethnicities.
Jimmy, so kind of talking, it was funny, we were talking to get to know each other a little bit. To think that your name is Jimmy, to me right away, I'm like, well, maybe not his real name, maybe like Chip is a nickname. And so Jimmy's not your real name.
Yeah, I think I speak for most Asians of, East Asian, South Asian, and so forth, is that coming to like a Western nation, you gotta have a nickname. Because your name will be not impossible to pronounce for especially English speakers. Because, for example, East Asian, at least at least in East Asia, the surname comes first, because your family name always comes first, and then your first and middle name is part of your first name, essentially. So, all that complexities growing up, especially for me, even from elementary school, middle school, high school, almost every teacher always asking me how do you pronounce this, and they mispronounce it over and over, and I was like, just go by Jimmy, much easier.
So do you do that to preempt what you know is coming, just to make
Exactly.
your life simpler, or is it to
I
not
feel
have people discriminate against you, or a combination of both?
Just
or-
make life easier for
Make
both
life
parties.
easier.
Right.
Because constantly correcting and, making sure everyone pronounced correctly. I don't expect anyone to be fluent in Chinese, so it's like, you know what, just go by Jimmy, that's
And,
fine.
and so what percentage of Asians would you think change their names then?
not near 100, I imagine.
Nearly
Wow.
100% of people change.
But I come from a particular area. I'm come from Hong Kong,
Mm-hmm.
and we really like Western culture.
Yeah.
So even them not coming to America, even Hong Kong, like they even had English nicknames because
In Hong Kong.
yeah, because we really admire Western culture a lot.
So it's not, so you kind of embrace it because you're liking the Western culture, so it's what name will I be?
Yeah, the city I'm come from is a very unique place because it was a British colony until 1997.
Yeah.
So a lot of, well, this is politically controversial, but a lot of people in the city, they prefer to stay in Western influence. But let's just say that if your city of 7.5 million compared to a country of 1.4 billion,
Wow.
you don't really have the right to say what you want to do. So China is really taking back the control, and with that, alongside the Western influence. So for starters, they prefer to speak less English and more Mandarin going forward. So they teach less and less of that at school now.
Wow.
So we are still trying to cling on to our Western past with our British colony status, but it's kind of getting erased day by day.
I wanted to throw it to Pia, but I want to come back to you too real quick. So how about, is Pia your real name?
Well, it is my real name,
Okay.
but it's my second name. And Hispanics, we have 4 names, and we use them all. So you have your first name. My first name is Maria,
Uh-huh.
and then my middle name is Pia, and I have 2 last names. Well, now that I'm married, I have, my husband's last name and my first last name. But you usually use your family last name or your father's last name first, Contreras, and then your mother's last name, Barriga. So we have 4.
So you invented hyphenated last names way before we did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then, I go by Pia. Usually Hispanics go by their second name. And I decided to go by Pia because there's so many Marias. All the Hispanic ladies are Marias. So very, very common.
Well, I didn't want to leave this conversation without having something that is unfortunately a topic right now, that is the rise of increase in Asian violence right now. And I really wanted to know kind of what you may or may not have experienced here in Fredericksburg, or how that impacts you or your family. What would you say to that?
Fortunately, we did not experience, me or my immediate family, experience any direct violence. We always get subtle things every now and then, but we're so used to it, we kind of don't blink an eye anymore. So fortunately, we have not experienced any direct violence in Fredericksburg. People here has always been pretty friendly, to be honest.
It looks.
Yeah, we always get very looks every now and then, but nothing like direct violence that we've been seeing across the nation lately. Because I
Yeah.
think the last time we checked, there was probably 7,500 cases since last year in direct hate crime against Asians. So that's reported. So let's assume that underreported is even much higher than that. So there has been a skyrocketed cases, but from what I'm aware, most of those cases are in big cities or centered around big cities. So fortunately, small towns like Fredericksburg or more suburban areas has experienced it less, and Fredericksburg has been pretty friendly in my experience.
That's good. That's really good to see.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's bring it back to real estate a little bit.
Yeah.
So
what I have a question, because one thing I do want to talk about for you though is, I want you to say something about the importance of talking about the Hispanic culture and bringing awareness to the Latino community here. And I also we can wrap this up with, bring this into real estate, because the Hispanic community is very important to construction here.
Yes.
In Fredericksburg and really anywhere, because when you go to construction sites now, that's mainly what you see.
Yes.
So if you want to talk a little bit about that, that'd be awesome.
Yes, well, you're right, and we always try to promote home ownership, and people in construction, they make good money, so they can afford houses. Now the houses that they buy usually are thinking about the size of houses where their children can continue living in.
So there's a
there.
difference in maybe what a Hispanic buyer might be looking for.
Yes, yes. So don't offer them like a Rambler, no basement. No. It's not gonna work.
Okay.
No, they always, looking, or, to have a second, like an income property as well. Keep in mind that a lot of people are, like we said before, have their immediate family here, but they have the rest of the family, it's in their country, and they're sending money to them. So really, the 100% of their income is not going to, just stay here.
Yeah, and I think keeping things raw and honest, sometimes there is a perception that there might be, many people living in a house, but that may be true in a Hispanic family because
Absolutely.
the way they approach their family and the way they live is very different
Yes.
than maybe we do.
Yes, exactly, and they like to live in community,
Yes.
and in our countries, to own a home, it's very difficult. I mean, down payments are huge, and really what you see, the people that are coming here are people that are in needs from their country. They usually don't live in a house, they're sharing the house that their parents sometime ago were able to buy. So that is in their culture. It's not that they want to just make a hotel out of a house,
Right.
which I've heard a lot
Yeah.
from comments or neighbors.
Right.
It's really because they're trying to help each other.
Right.
That's the spirit of
And I know that to be true because I've been working for a few years with some clients from Afghanistan, and I know one particular brother. He invited his brother, even though the loan and the house was in his name and his wife's name, he had to have a split FOIA because he said, my wife and I and our children will live upstairs, and my brother and his wife will live downstairs. And he said, he will help me pay the rent, but in the meantime, we're gonna be saving money for him to buy a house in a few years.
Yes.
So, a lot of them do that. I've had, I think, four clients who have done the same thing so that all of them can save money,
Yeah.
so the next person can buy a house. And then a few years later, it'll be someone else. So Jimmy, we know that home ownership is really, really important in the Asian community. So give us some tidbits on that.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a market accomplishment. It's really valued high up there alongside, I guess, academic achievement. And at least, especially the older generation, homeownership is pretty much priority number one. It's really important, and it's similar to what you just described. It's more of a communal based too. So let's say we got a house, and then my immediate family needs to help too, and then they all work together, they all save up, and then they all support each other.
And I think they may have more specific requirements. I know of what feng shui, I haven't really experienced that when I'm showing properties, but that is a thing, it's a real
It's
thing.
important.
Yeah, the older generation for
Right.
sure, but the younger generation, it's becoming less and less so, and also depends on which region. East Asian, so East Asian is Korea, Japan, and China, right? So they care a bit more because it's more integrated in the culture. While South Asians, like let's say like Thailand, Malaysia, or Philippines, like I think they'll care a little bit less because it's not integrated in the culture. Because feng shui originated from China, and East Asian cultures like Korea or Japan have more of an influence from Chinese culture than South Asians. So to answer your question, I guess more elaborate details than you expected. It's East Asian, older generation cares about the particulars, and it's in the end of the day, like it's a symmetry. It's a symmetry, but like it's just in more of elaborate terms. And I guess any human brain prefers symmetry over asymmetry. So feng shui is just a complicated art form of promoting symmetry most of the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting to see the different cultures, and I think the association has a lot of people that are in our membership, and that's what this is all about. And I think we are evolving, we are growing as an association as we're talking today and stuff, but we're not perfect, probably never will be perfect, we've got a lot to grow. I just want to talk to you maybe some tangible things that you're still seeing where we need some growth or whatnot. I know for you guys, have any of you guys done a refinance on your house?
No.
Not lately.
But, okay, well then let me ask you a question. If you did, do you think you'd be taking your pictures down off the wall? Your family pictures?
Absolutely. That,
You
I
think you
would,
would? Okay.
I will tell you, for years, I refused to tell my clients, and I have to tell you, most of my clients were members of my church or friends. I hardly ever went outside of that. And so the majority of my clients were black. And I never asked my clients to take their pictures down because when I went to everybody else's listings, they had pictures from their Confederate grandfather all the way down the wall. I mean, millions of pictures, and they were up. But then I would go to a house that I knew black people lived in, and every single picture was gone. And it was interesting to me because I knew some of those listing agents, and I knew what they had told blacks to remove their pictures. So I wouldn't do it for a very long time. But then
Yeah.
I heard about that study in Florida where this black lady was married to a white guy, and the house, an appraiser came to the house. Well, the appraisal was low, and they were very shocked to see that appraisal. So then they ended up taking all the pictures down and only left pictures up of the white side of the family. And they had another appraiser go in, and the house appraised for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars higher.
And that's a real tangible thing. We think we've moved on, but there's still ways to go. And I mentioned refinance in particular because I had, with their permission, I had some gay friends that were doing a refinance, and they actually, as a habit, when they have stuff like that going on, they will actually research when they know who the appraiser is going to be, and they go to their social media profile and kind of found out they were quite conservative and did not want that to impact their value, so they did take their pictures down. So it does impact people. And how about you guys, when you were saying, if you were saying to an Asian or a Hispanic seller, would you recommend they take their pictures down?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's again the awareness. Sometimes I just have to. I mean, you can't live all the time thinking, okay, I'm gonna do this because I can be discriminated, or it just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's enough. How about you, Jimmy? Is that something that would enter your brain?
I personally believe that every minority have experienced a different type of struggles, depending on which kind of minority you are. And Asian Americans, I mean, there's a reason why there's such a common catchphrase of minority. And Asians, especially East Asians, we usually don't experience the same struggles as, let's say,
Right.
other minorities. So 9 out of 10 times, no.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like you're dealing with other Caucasians, because I feel like they were just like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure this house is kept up then.
Yeah.
And the relation is vice versa. Not only do I feel like the minority Caucasians kind of prefer Asians, Asians also kind of prefer Caucasians. So if anyone's ever wondering, like if you have an Asian buyer or seller, you curious or want to be their client, if you're Caucasian, there's almost no problem. They actually prefer you, or you're Asian. They prefer Asian first and then Caucasian, and then let's just say, especially the other ethnicity, they probably don't prefer it as much. And people are surprised when I say this, but East Asians in particular, and especially the older generation, they're very, very conservative.
Yeah.
Just to say that lightly.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the question, and then I'm started thinking, okay, I will have to tell my clients to do more than remove pictures, because I mean everything will tell them, that they're Hispanic. I mean, from decoration, from the color, the smell when you go in. So
Many times there is a lot of color.
Yes. Every time that I go into my my clients that are from El Salvador, their houses are blue or light blue. It's the color of their flag, and they like it. And then you have to respect that. So so I'll pictures down. It won't hurt.
Well,
help my people.
This is so, I mean, I just love our conversation, but and that's funny that you say that, because that was the first thing that I'm thinking about, because I know a particular house that's really blue and pink, and I love it, but I absolutely knew when it was blue and pink that Hispanics had moved there, but I love it, and it's their choice. Right, it's a choice. But Jimmy, what you said is very interesting, because I've known that for a long time, that Asians, I know that whites love Asians because they think that every Asian is smart. And we've heard that over and over again. I heard it growing up, and then on the flip side, I've heard how Asians really respect whites, and they don't care too much about Hispanics, and they don't care about blacks. And when I say don't care, I'm like, when you're talking in a totem pole, that's kind of like the way that they are. But in life, like, I don't have an issue with Jimmy. I would never have an issue with Jimmy because he's Asian, and I would hope that in real estate that all of us would be like a melting pot, and we're all. Now, I don't care if my client likes that blue and pink house, then I'm going to show that blue and pink house.
Well, and bringing it back around, the magic of the diversity committee is honestly just being able to, without hesitation, have these conversations. And there are little things that we are making strides, we are making differences. I know, being Pride Month right now, I've been totally impressed with the number of realtors that have changed the frames on their Facebook. And the gay ones, but I've seen so many of my straight friends also do it. And that really means the world to me, to see that kind of stuff. And companies are doing it as well. And so it is important for us all to kind of play in the same sandbox and get along well. And I think we have like one last question before we wrap things up.
Yes, the last question is, why do you think it's important that our leadership and the committee at FAAR be diverse and inclusive? Start with
Because
you.
you want to see yourself represented.
You want to see yourself at the table.
Yeah, at a table. I mean, do you care if you don't, if you are black and you just see on the board just white people?
Yeah.
Would you participate? Would you be, feel like this is your home too?
Yeah.
That's true.
Jimmy, why is it important?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier, where FAR should represent, the community of Fredericksburg and the changing demographics, and as a whole, Fredericksburg as Virginia and to the country, and it is unarguable that the momentum is becoming a more and more diverse country going forward. I mean, Asian Americans are the fastest growing minority, and second half fastest growing minorities, South America, and I feel like you can either follow the momentum and embrace the reality,
Yeah.
or you fight it and you just got forgotten by history.
Right.
Like same thing as '68, same thing as now, and the people that embrace it and accept what's true and good, are the people that get remembered in history.
Well, and that's why we're trying to do things like the Faces of FAR Scholarship. So we're not just talking, we're not doing tokenism, we're actually providing means, because sometimes when you first get started in leadership, it's expensive to go to a committee or something, or to a
Yes.
convention. And so we put $1,000 scholarship out there so that now they can actually go to a committee, learn, get involved. And I think once you go to do something like that, there's a much greater chance you actually will go forward with
Right.
that, or encourage other people you know to
To
get more
join.
involved as well.
Well, and not only that, we didn't always have a diversity committee at
No.
FAR. We just started this a little over a year ago. Thank goodness our current president at the time, Drew Fristow, thought it was a great idea. And so we talked about it for months before we actually had our first meeting. And I think that by us being so forward with this, that we have really shown, not just here in Fredericksburg, but even on the state level, we have shown people how important it is that we are diverse, inclusive, and that we are looking at the equity of everybody. So, there are people on the state level who are looking at what FAR is doing, because there are many associations in Virginia who do not have a diversity committee. So I just think that, once again, as usual, that FAR has stepped up, and we have this diversity committee, and we are trying to make sure that we are inviting to everybody. We don't want anybody to feel like they're not a part of FAR.
Is there anything we left off the table here that you guys wanted to talk about today?
No, I think that we have covered it all.
Okay.
How about you, Jimmy?
No, just want to say thank you for what you guys are doing.
Well,
Yes.
we want to thank you.
Yes.
Because FAR and Fredericksburg, I believe they're about love.
Yes.
And I think we're growing, we're evolving, we're changing. Discussions like this matter, they're important.
Yes.
And I think through that, I think we will become a stronger association.
And I'll tell you one thing. So Chip, I love Chip. We have this relationship, but I will tell you that we started this because he came one day to talk to me. He wanted to dialogue just about wanting to know more and more about about some issues
Yeah.
that he didn't know about. And so for me, I think that's what we're doing today is all about. There are so many people who will see this video and will want to know more about the Hispanic community or the gay community or the Asian community or the black community. And all four of us are open and willing to
Yes.
discuss it.
Yes.
So we're an open book. We want any and everybody to know, to answer any questions. And anything we don't know the answer to, we'll find it.
Well,
So this has been awesome.
Episode 1,
Yes.
face to face. Thank you both for being here
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you.